Good afternoon. Good afternoon, folks, and welcome to the 9th Annual South Bay Economic Forecast. This is Frank Motek here from 790 KABC, Motek on Money. Number one for your business and consumer news here in Southern California, and your host for this afternoon's program. This is the 9th time I've done this. I promised Marilyn McPolin that I'll keep doing it until I get it right or until the economy is off the charts, one or the other. The topic today is strengthening the South Bay's competitive edge. In an era of unprecedented technological advancements and rapid change, companies are navigating a landscape where innovation is the currency of success. The South Bay, known for its dynamic business ecosystem, finds itself at the intersection of this transformation, and today we will uncover how South Bay companies are embracing innovation, harnessing cutting-edge technologies, and fostering collaboration to thrive in the ever-evolving global enterprise. Now, the shift from analog to digital technologies over the past 40-plus years now has drastically accelerated the pace at which products, companies, and industries evolve. This afternoon, we will hear from individuals who will speak to these key areas, as well as economic trends, tech advancements, industry disruptors, new manufacturing advancements, and competitive edge strategies. Now, did you know a farming company has been selling autonomous vehicles since 1989? You'll be hearing from them later in the program. Of course, a lot of people think we've had self-driving cars for years. Remember when we had the Thomas Brothers guides and you had to drive around flipping the pages, people putting on makeup, texting, and all of that. So I think we have had self-driving cars for some time, but apparently since 1989 at least. Before we begin, today's agenda for the forecast can be found by scanning that QR code located on the tables. This afternoon, the South Bay Economics Institute will first deliver the news on the South Bay economy. The economists will discuss labor shortages, wage earnings, entrepreneurship trends, housing, and rental markets, and other regional economic updates. And then we'll turn over to the Competitive Edge Tech Panel with speakers from Azure Printed Homes. Yep, Printed Homes. They aim to disrupt house building using recycled plastic bottles in their 3D printed manufacturing process. John Deere Intelligent Solutions, who recently entered the space industry. We will be growing carrots on the moon, maybe, or Mars. We're going to find out today. Will they get the tractors up there? We're going to ask that question, too. And DSA Signage bring digital signage and visual merchandising displays to a whole new level using advanced technologies. And Varda Space Industries in the house, the very first in-space pharmaceutical manufacturing company. I believe we have just entered a new era of intergalactic trade based on what we have here today. Additionally, these companies will practice sustainability in their business models. After the forecast, you'll have the chance to converse directly with today's speakers during the hosted craft beer and wine reception held at the Innovation and Instructional Building, that tall yellow building that you passed on the way in from the parking lot today. Today's social media hashtag is hashtag CSUDH Forecast. And of course, remember in the olden days, we told you to put away your Blackberries and turn your phones off and all that. If anything, we want to encourage the opposite today. Take plenty of pictures, of course, and hit Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, and the whole works. It is now time to acknowledge the extraordinary individuals and companies who support the university's important mission of educating the future workforce here. Proceeds from the forecast benefit the College of Business and Public Policy. Many thanks to our presenting sponsor, Chase, and to the gold sponsors, Ivy and Leo Chu, Bree Nguyen, Downey, Smith, and Fire. Thank you. And we're extremely grateful for the forecast silver sponsors displayed on the screen. And of course, we greatly appreciate our partnering organizations for their continued outreach. Thank you very much for your support of this program. And now it's an honor to introduce the host of today's economic forecast, the president of California State University, Dominguez Hills. Please welcome Dr. Thomas A. Parham, who will deliver the official welcome on behalf of the university.
Sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank. Good afternoon.
Thank
Let me try that again. Thank you, Frank. Good afternoon. That's what I'm looking for. Those I've not had the privilege of meeting, I am Dr. Thomas Parham, your president of California State University, Dominguez Hills, and I'm honored to welcome you on behalf of our faculty, staff, and senior administration, and all of our students to this magnificent institution that literally is transforming lives that will ultimately transform America. Now, I want to be brief because we have so much information to share with you today, but I want to take a point of privilege. And I'd like our sponsors, if you would, to please stand, because universities like this that are challenged and resource constrained literally could not do what we do without the important strategic sponsorships that we have and the partnerships we have with people. These aren't just sponsors, they are partners with us. And our students thrive, our faculty thrive, our campus thrives because of these individuals. Our sponsors, if you would, please stand up for me, right? And I know we can do a little better than that. Give your sponsors some love up in here. Thank you all. That sounds more like it. Now, this university is also an important economic driver. And here in the South Bay, really creating thousands of jobs while educating many more thousands of students every year and young minds to fulfill the workforce needs of present and future local industries. We also have, in case you hadn't heard, an alumni base. So in case you are looking for folk to fill those employment gaps, we've got over 100 and close to 15,000 alumni, 60% of which live right here within a 25-mile radius of the campus. So as you're looking for that, and by the way, did anybody mention we have a very diverse campus? At this point, right, 89% students of color. So if you look, and by the way, almost 70% women. So if you're looking for diverse women leaders, right? I know people are going, dang. This is where you'll find them. Now today, I'm intrigued, like most of you, to hear from our South Bay Economics panel, who will discuss current economic trends in the area. And we'll talk about the job market, of course, and housing status, aerospace trends and entrepreneurship, private investments, and graduate outcomes for our Cal State University Dominguez Hills graduates. But I'm also looking forward to hearing from today's Competitive Edge panelists on what innovation approaches they have to stay competitive in their respective industries. One of the things that's true, In fact, the poets used to say this: one thing is for certain and the rest is lies, and that's that time flies. But when time flies, what you can't do is be a static entity. What you have to do is be a dynamic one. And if you're a dynamic entity, what you can't do is just run any old which way, because at that point, any road will take you there. You want to have a very, sound programmatic plan to move forward in a vision of possibility for what it is that, we might be able to do. And so as a leader of this institution who collaborates with a lot of you, I believe the only limit, ladies and gentlemen, is the limit of our imagination. So one of the things that the South Bay Economic Forecast ought to do is not simply inform you about trends, but it should ignite that spark in each of you that challenges you to be more creative than you might have otherwise been before you walk through those doors this afternoon. Sound like a plan to me? Yes? All right. Because with all these industries that we have today, we'll hear about innovations that are revolutionizing game changers. I'm talking about changing the game. What if the next groundbreaking pharmaceutical discovery originated beyond Earth? What of 3D printed homes manufactured from recycled water bottles? Or how about hearing from John Deere? Where are we at? I just met here. Where is it? There he is, right? Who is sowing the seeds of innovation with their entry into the space tech industry. Now, these ought to be things like Arsenio Hall said that make you go, Even digital sign making has become extremely high tech in the areas that most of us wouldn't expect. In other areas of strengthening competitive edge specifics to this university, higher ed, private, public partnerships are on the rise. And for us, they create synergies that enhance educational experiences, research opportunities, and institutional growth. And why is institutional growth important? As I said, this is now my 6th year on this campus. I said we would transform lives that transform America, but we also are transforming this campus. This is not your grandmother's Dominguez Hills any longer. Do not get it twisted, right? We're doing some innovative things. In the past 2 years, we've entered into such extraordinary partnerships. So let me just share just a couple of these with you. A $5 million contribution from SNAP Incorporated has allowed us to create the SNAP Incorporated Institute for Technology and Innovation and Education, which aims to make computer science an integral part of K-12 education in Los Angeles. That sounds like an applause line to me. Not to mention the fact that we train the third most teachers who teach at LA Unified right over here in this College of Education under the magnificent leadership of one of our wonderful deans. With the assistance of the California Legislative Black Caucus, your campus, Dominguez Hills, has received not 10, not 20, not 30, not 40, not 50, but $60 million earmarked for a trio of infrastructure improvements, including a new residence hall, a dining commons, a infrastructure upgrade on our electrical grid, and what will be a brand new state-of-the-art health, wellness, and recreation center that will happen on the south part of campus. How is it that COVID impacts our region? Impacts particularly people of color and poor white folk. But we are one of the few campuses in this LA region that doesn't have a health, wellness, and recreation center. Yeah? That ought to be disgraceful in this day and time, yeah? So the Legislative Black Caucus said, them days are over. We're going to give you a down payment on that. But then we went to the students. And we said, you got to have some skin in the game too. All of you are saying, what skin in the game does the campus and the students have? And our student leadership, under the leadership of a prior ASI president, got together, put in a referendum, and voted to tax themselves to add the other $66 million over the course of the next 30 years that will build that and pay the debt service on a brand new $86 million thing. You think we aren't changing here at Dominguez Hills? Right? That sounds like an applause line to me too, ladies and gentlemen. And not to be outdone with that, right? We recently revealed the news. We've known for a few months, but we recently revealed the news that we've received a transformative gift, $22.1 million from the Balmer Group that will strengthen our university's role in training new diverse generation of early childhood educators across Southern California, largely through the Toro Teach LA program. All right. Now, before we begin the program and I take my seat, I want to recognize and thank one of our higher ed partners, right? And I say this even as a UC alum, but UCLA Anderson, who are leaders in economic forecasting. 2 years ago, they created a remarkable fellowship for Dominguez Hill students from underrepresented communities who are in pursuit of economics educations. So I want to thank Jerry Nicholsburg. Where's Jerry? Because I just saw him a little while ago. Where did Jerry go? There he is. Jerry, stand up for me. You're talking about what creating opportunities for young people is. We have lots of students, ladies and gentlemen, that can't see off of the block because they've not been to the places that a lot of you are. What Jerry and that team did was recognize that and created this fellowship. And so his vision in providing our students with this remarkable opportunity has been life-changing for 3 students from the first cohort who are in fact in attendance today. So let's meet them. Please stand up when I call your name. So Duanyai Oprian, Duanyai, please stand up for me. Keep standing, keep standing. Christopher Hendricks, where are you at? Yes, Chris, welcome home. And Renisha Williams, where are you at? We're going to give her a little applause anyway. Give it up for our students if you would. Thank you. I'd also like to recognize 2 students who helped with this year's South Bay Economic Forecast report, which you can access by the QR code on your tables. Marcelo Cowo, where's Marcelo? Wait a minute, that's all the love y'all got for Marcelo. Give it up for him, please. And Eric Jones, where are you at, Eric? There he is. Thank you both. You make us proud. Ladies and gentlemen, you are in for a treat. This South Bay Economic Forecast is something that we are very proud of here at California State University, Dominguez Hills. We ought to be the place where topics of critical discourse and analysis, right, become those things that we talk a lot about. And so you are in for a treat. Without further ado, let's get ready to start crack-a-lacking. Frank, let me turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Very good.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Are you ready for the forecast? All right, here it is. Mostly sunny with a high up around 73. Low will be down around 59. We're showing a beautiful 72 with sunshine here right now at Cal State University, Dominguez Hills. Should be noted that weather is a big reason why we're all here, of course, and it's also a big reason why businesses are here. In fact, according to the BizFed recent survey, it's number 1 on the list why everybody's here, and also impacts real estate as well, because they say all real estate actually is free here in the Los Angeles area. What you pay for is the weather. So let's hear for the weather, folks, and the magnificent Chamber of Commerce weather we have here. And speaking of that, Dr. Parham, thank you again for hosting that wonderful State of LA business event we had here recently, where we celebrated another economic engine here in Southern California at that time, and that was Taylor Swift, who did a fantastic job pumping up the economy here to the tune of about $320 million. Now, let's hear it for Taylor Swift. We're going to shake off that recession. Still waiting for it. The South Bay Economics Institute conducts important research on regional impact, as we'll be hearing this afternoon, and the work of the South Bay Economics Institute here at Cal State University, Dominguez Hills continues to play a vital role in the local business community, providing invaluable resources, expertise, and foresight. They have provided services to a broad range of community members, including World Trade Center LA, Mineta Transportation Institute, South Bay Workforce Investment Board, and the California Department of Cannabis Control, just to name a few. And their grant research is in the areas of international trade, transportation, housing, corporate governance, cannabis, and new technology. The Institute also produces the South Bay Economic Forecast Report, which will be discussed today in detail. That report available to you by scanning that QR code on your table. So let's hear now from the South Bay Economics Institute. Here's the Institute, Dr. Jennifer Broadman, Dr. Jose Martinez and Dr. Finwin Prager to present the other forecast, the economic forecast for you. Wonderful to see you again. Thank you very, very much for all of your work over the past year. And gosh, that was a fast year, wasn't it? I still have last year's report in my bag and just now having a chance to review it. They say the older you get, the faster it goes, like a roll of toilet paper. It's amazing, really. Thank you very much, professors. Now, why don't each of you share with us your area of research and special interests, and then we'll begin the South Bay economics discussion. Dr. Broadman, good afternoon. Let's begin with you, please.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jennifer Broadman. I'm in the Department of Accounting, Finance, Economics, and Law. I teach finance, specifically business finance and entrepreneurial finance. My research areas are in entrepreneurial finance and corporate finance, focusing on access to capital and corporate governance.
Dr. Prager.
Hi, my name is Finn Prager. I'm a department faculty member in the Public Administration Department. I've got some of my students here in the audience. Shout out to you guys. We also conduct research, as was mentioned, on a number of issues relating to the South Bay economy, including recent reports on cannabis, telecommuting, and warehousing and other freight industries. And then my personal interests are around disasters and other extreme events and the economic impacts of those kinds of events.
Students, make sure you're visible so we can give you extra credit for being here today.
Same here. I see some of my students, too.
Also, okay.
So, thank you. Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for coming here to Dominguez Hills. This is our home, and I hope that you feel that this is your home, too. Where are my students at?
Right in front.
Okay, good. So my name is Jose Martinez, and I'm an economist. Have to say that. I represent the Department of Finance, Accounting, Economics, and Law, and my research interests are in time series modeling, and my actual research is mainly about the South Bay economy. So thank you for inviting me.
All right. Well, let me share a piece of good news that we got right out of the gate this morning. The economy grew even faster than expected in the third quarter, buoyed by a strong consumer in spite of higher interest rates, ongoing inflation pressures, and a variety of other domestic as well, of course, the geopolitical concerns that we're all focused on these days. The economy actually grew at a rate of 4.9%. Who wants to take the reaction to that big news here, first of all?
I can go with that. It's really incredible, the dynamism of the U.S. economy. The forecasters, and Jerry's one of them over at the UCLA Anderson Forecast Center, the economy seems to be confounding forecasters again and again. As we kind of trace the development of these numbers over time, it's as though the can's been kicked back and back because somehow the economy keeps performing well. And that is in spite of really high inflation last year, although that's come down now to about, a more normal, if you will, 3% year on year. Yes, there's high gas prices. Those have increased recently. There's actually high electricity costs. But that's also offset by lower second-hand cars. Those are coming down again. And other below average prices. So that's good. That's the good news. But to go back to the dynamism of the economy, the U.S. has this amazing ability to keep growing, to keep outcompeting other areas. In that year of inflation that we saw, that really impacted Western Europe economies. My home country of the UK has been buffeted by these impacts, and it still has 6% inflation. Here, we seem to be able to ride those things out, partly thanks to the low unemployment rates, which means that we've all hopefully got some money in our pockets to spend, and consumer spending is a huge driver of all this. But it's also about we've got a fiercely competitive corporate culture. We've got amazing people, all the people in the room here, high levels of human capital, and that's a real strength of this region as well. Really impressive education levels. The US actually spends far more on education, especially higher education, than other countries, despite what those international tests tell us. And the kind of strength in depth that you get from a large economy. We've got actually pretty good capital. We've got pretty good infrastructure that keeps our economy growing. We've got a kind of base of capital that comes from years of heritage of development over time. And so those things enable that continued growth. And it's remarkable that, the US has outpaced the Western Europe since 1990. It's outpaced Japan since 1990. The only country that's kind of kept pace is China, and that's still a fourth of our economy. So it's really impressive.
One thing I would add too is our labor force. One of our previous forecasts, our theme was adapting to change, and we've seen our labor force really adapt to the changes in the environment from COVID. We had those shutdowns, and we shifted to remote work pretty well. We've seen from previous panelists talking about how they went and adjusted for the manufacturing, and so we've just seen, even us opening up, seeing the workforce adapting to it, even our fellow students adapting to the new changes of the environment. And so it's about the infrastructure, our economy, and also the people behind it.
Yeah, so it's really a surprise that the economy is doing so well, and the main source of that is consumer spending. Consumers are just spending like crazy, basically, and thank you for that. So that's good news for the economy. And actually, we were discussing last year, like in the year of the pandemic, that we were like, everybody was confused how to feel about the economy, right? Like, please tell me how should I feel about the economy? Should I feel good? Should I feel bad? I asked my class this morning, right? And I said, like, how's the economy doing? And everybody said, like, real bad, real bad. Are we in a recession? I said, yes, we're in a recession. People don't know that the economy is actually doing really, really well. If you take the average growth rate for the last 4 quarters, the U.S. economy has been growing at about 3%. 3% is historically high. So everybody should be celebrating right now. We'll do it later, but the economy is chugging along just because consumers are feeling like spending, and that's good news for the economy. So even though on the federal side they're spending, but the Federal Reserve is raising interest rates, which we might see that they continue because the economy keeps growing. But still, consumers are the key, and they're feeling well.
All right. What happened to that recession? We had those 2 down quarters, and is it coming or what? And it looked like we were in the middle of a recession last time we were here, but now it looks like we're in the middle of whatever it is we're in the middle of.
I think last time we were talking about the possibility of a soft landing, so maybe not a recession, but small levels of growth. But again, the economy has such a dynamism to it that it keeps growing at remarkable levels, and that's in spite of that inflation. So that the inflationary pressures were, I think, the worry. After COVID, with the massive injection of federal financing, with the the supply chain issues that we cover a lot in the report, those things were a real concern, and so there was a worry that hiring wouldn't pick up again, that people would be careful about their bank balances, but it seems like we're just outspending anyway. So
Yeah. We do see mortgage rates at a 23-year high here at the moment, as those bond yields popped above 5% on the 10-year note, that benchmark yield that affects the fixed rate mortgage rates. Dr. Martinez, I know you track real estate very closely, so what is the report on real estate for this area now?
Well, in the last couple months, actually, home prices have been going up. They peaked at middle of the 2022, and then came down for about 7 months, and then now been up a little bit. With the news that we heard about the state of the economy, we expect that the Federal Reserve will continue, at least at a moderate pace, to keep raising interest rates, which is not good news for the housing market overall. But again, this is Southern California. This is California. People love to be here. So we don't expect any major downturn on the market. And actually on the housing market, there's a bright spot there that is the new home construction and sales. That's actually, they're doing pretty well, even though the interest rates are so high. Big companies, constructors, they're actually able to pay or to buy some of those interests down, and people are able to afford those homes and buy them. So the market is not doing so well because of the interest rates, but it keeps chugging along just like consumers. So not so bad news.
Dr. Brahman, I don't think AI was even mentioned last year, but this year it has exploded, of course, and affected the stock market in a big way. And what about AI and its impact here now?
We've seen a lot of, pretty much AI has transformed a lot of businesses. And so it's really transformed written and visual communication. It's provided new tools for that. We've seen that in the workplace as well as something that us professors have to deal with when we're looking at essays and such, right? And so we actually have classes that incorporate AI and monitor AI. There's actually been a recent study from Goldman Sachs saying that generative AI can actually raise global GDP by 7%, which is approximately $7 trillion. When we're looking at the South Bay, there's actually over 20 companies that invest in AI, and capital investment within the region has actually increased from 1 million to over 230 million. So we see the potential that AI has.
Yeah, on the negative side, of course, there's the worry of workforce disruption, right? Some people are going to lose their jobs. That's totally true. But that's true of almost any other innovation. So overall, it could be good for the economy. I think it is good for the economy. The key will be to translate those AI and that technology into labor productivity. I think it's going to find a way to do that. And if it does, the economy is going to benefit. We all are going to benefit for that.
All right, we're going to have a special table set up in the back for any of the students that want to report themselves for using AI in their last paper. So anyone who wants to admit to that, there's a table there. What about in education, AI and the impact you're seeing in the classroom?
So I think it can be seen in a couple of ways, right? So on the one hand, we're as educators, we're concerned about students just using it blindly to produce potentially substandard work even. And there is a concern that AI tools, and just be warned, students, they can have hallucinations where they produce, basically nonsense or APA-style citations that are incorrect, or they just make stuff up. And those things are all really problematic. But on the flip side, I think it's a tool that's going to be here. It's going to be used widely. And so we need to educate our students in how to use that tool. I think there's also opportunities for educational institutions like ours, which are generationally under-resourced, to be able to use those tools to increase our own productivity on the administrative side. So that's something that some of our faculty and committees are starting to look at now. It's going to take a while, though, to roll those things out, for sure.
Actually, our business incubator, our innovation incubator on campus, is David Ochi here? Oh, not yet. But anyway, so the innovation incubator, they actually do an Alpha Start program where they use AI for some of their content formation. So we have students that are actually, shout out to Breenwen as well on that. Sorry about that. Thank you, Bree. And so they're really helping the students understand the tools that AI has the potential to help with, and training them on them so that they have that cutting edge, those cutting edge skills.
Yeah. So the key is that it could be a really useful tool. I'm not against it. Educators were not against it, and I think students can benefit from that. Just be careful, right? Some of the stuff that it generates might not be true or complete nonsense, but I think it's a good tool. And if you try to prohibit something, you know what happens, right? But so I think it's a good tool, and the key again is how to translate that improvement in technology into labor productivity.
Can any of you share some of the stellar examples of the use of AI, or maybe some disgraceful uses that you've seen so far?
I haven't seen a disgraceful use, but one of the things that we want to have students be aware of is it can exacerbate bias. So if it's looking at past information, that can be an issue. So just to be aware of that. I don't know if anybody in the crowd has done their high school photos through AI. I have seen some of my friends through Instagram do that. But I actually use AI a lot for letter formation. So when I'm composing a business letter or things of that nature that I don't have to do the formatting, it'll kind of compose that for me. So that's one thing that I use it for. It's just like those admin skills that, I just need to compose a letter and put the address right, and it'll format it nicely for me. So things like that I've used AI for.
For those that have the chance to really study all this, are there preferred tools based on your experience? When you think AI, which tools do you use at this point?
ChatGPT is definitely a very popular one. Adobe also has AI tools as well on the visual side.
All right, good to know. All right, now those of you who came here today might have taken the 110 freeway. It was named because you go either 1 or 10 miles an hour. Traffic congestion, the very, very big factor here. And by the way, the 405, similarly, you go 4 or 5 miles an hour. So that's just how it is. What about traffic What are you going to do about traffic, Professor?
So, COVID really brought down commute times from 31.8 minutes on average to 31.3 minutes on average.
It's a factor here in the South Bay. Yes.
So a good half a minute savings on average. We have seen some kind of changes in what we call the distribution of congestion time. So, it used to be that there were these 2 rush hour periods that, they say rush hour, but it was rush hours, right? It was kind of 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the evening, and then a dip in the middle. Now we're seeing a much more kind of flat distribution as there's more flexible work practices in the workplace, which is fantastic. More flexibility is a good thing for workers, for productivity, for their families. There's challenges for sure in navigating those, but what we're seeing is that the trends are towards more working from home, in different formats. On the flip side, there's trends away from public transit, and that's something that we're going to have to navigate, especially as other kind of climate mandates and things like that come in. The metro for LA is building out a lot of infrastructure in the public transit space, and people just aren't using it. And that's a real challenge.
Yeah. When Dr. Parham hosted the State of LA Business recently, we focused on the Olympics coming up. LA is about to become a city that's first to host 3 Olympics, 1932, 1984, and 2028. And certainly there's a lot of preparation. That's got to help pump up the economy with SoFi Stadium certainly be the center of the universe here, right?
If I may, historically, world sports events have been really bad for the economy.
Oh, no.
Especially like a good example would be Qatar. They had, it's because when you take into account all the infrastructure investments, it becomes a negative. There's no benefit at all for the hosting city. LA is different because all the venues, the major venues that they're going to use, they're already built. So it can become actually a very positive economic impact on the South Bay and the LA region.
Also,
Peter Ueberroth building at UCLA, when I go into Westwood, by the way, Professor Nicholsberg, and Peter Ueberroth, of course, did a great job back in 1984 and is remembered well for that. So, yeah, what is it going to look like in 28?
One thing that was one of the priorities as well for the Olympics was having less of a carbon footprint. And so having the existing infrastructure is great for that because then there's less construction to build. And also since we are seeing that investments in the metro lines, just having means of transporting people as well really helps with the sustainability efforts.
But this is exciting times for the South Bay. We've got events here on campus. We've got the SoFi Stadium. The Inglewood Forum, I believe, is going to hold some of the welcoming ceremonies. We've got events like the triathlon and things like that down at Long Beach. So many events in this area. So definitely get out of town because traffic will be a nightmare. There'll be designated lanes for all the Olympic athletes and all the celebrities and all that. Everyone else will be slumming it in the rest of the areas. But charge for your Airbnbs. Get those on because the prices will be sky high.
All right, so we have the hot labor summer, now the hot labor autumn. We got the writers' strike resolved. The actors are still talking, but Hollywood's still basically shut down. Loud protests in front of the major hotels. Healthcare workers also have been striking. What about the labor situation and people trying to make it here in the Los Angeles area?
And not to be controversial or anything, we actually, for us, the CFA, the California Faculty Association, we're actually talking about that. And I think overall, it is a hot summer and a lot of movement, I guess, people talking about strikes and everything. But I think it makes sense. We consider the COVID disruptions, right? And inflation and AI and all that. There's some movement in the way people are compensated. So to the part that there's an effort to compensate that and to correct that, I think it's a good thing.
And all right, and let me ask you this, another fly in the Chardonnay, certainly. We had those big bank failures earlier this year, and commercial real estate still very much in focus. We've had some very high-profile defaults in commercial real estate. There's been a slow return to the office. We have these see-through office buildings now, discussion about maybe converting some of the office space into residential and all that. What about the commercial real estate situation here?
Yeah, I think that's what has been discussed, that the housing situation is so bad that I believe we have about more than 100,000 deficit in units for homes per month in the area. So that's a lot of homes that need to be built. And commercial real estate might be the key. Of course, there's not one solution to the problem. It should be all different things to try, but it's definitely something to consider because in LA, the problem is, of course, housing, and one of the solutions could be about density. The moment that we start talking about density, I think that's when we start talking about real solution to the problem.
But just to clarify, currently 1 in 5 commercial offices are empty. And that's a real problem because we've got a ton of commercial real estate space and it's not being utilized to its full capacity. And that's partly kicking in now because those leases are so long, right? They're usually 5 or 10-year leases. Some businesses were able to renegotiate those leases and so left earlier as they saw the kind of read the tea leaves when it came to the COVID pandemic and more people working from home. But I would not want to be in that sector right now because it is a tough market. And because of those zoning constraints, it means it's really difficult to move across into other ventures.
All right, another tough topic, of course, is the geopolitical situation. We have a lot of defense and aerospace companies here, and we're all watching what's happening in the Middle East, as well as Russia and Ukraine. What about the impact of all this on not only the global economy, but specifically this economy?
I mean, it's a really tough question because obviously on a moral level, our hearts bleed for all the people that are dying at the moment. It's just horrific to see. And often economists are accused of being cold-hearted. And I think when it comes to some of these aspects, it feels like, if you're making money from selling weapons to other countries that are being used to kill people, that seems like a really cold-hearted aspect. On the other hand, if it weren't for those weapons going to Ukraine, they wouldn't be able to defend themselves. So these things are obviously really complex, and we're not pretending to have any kind of moral higher ground here, but those things can be really tough. And ultimately peace is better, right? The Ukraine war has caused massive increases in the oil and gas price, in food prices, especially in the developing world, and so we'd all be better off if we weren't going to war.
And you mentioned it, gas and oil prices, certainly one of the most visible impacts of all this unrest here. We've seen gas prices recently get close to the record highs. Any prediction on where energy prices go, given the cards on the table?
I mean, recently the gas prices have been going up again, and I'm sure we've all seen that at the
We know.
the pump. Yeah, like I've seen, even north of $7 a gallon. It just seems remarkable. Thankfully, other prices are not following as of yet, and so we're seeing, much more stable prices elsewhere, and which is kind of offsetting some of that pressure. It's so hard to say what the future holds because there's so much uncertainty in these markets, and ultimately those prices are controlled by a small group of countries who have the largest stocks in the world, and so basically what they say goes.
Yeah, overall, all that global unrest basically translates into uncertainty, and markets don't like uncertainty, and inflation happens. So that could be a direct impact of those conflicts overseas on the region. But like Finn was saying, it's something that it should not be taken lightly. It's serious. It's very dramatic what is happening in other parts of the world, and we're lucky that at least we have certainty to some extent here. And even if we have to pay higher prices for gasoline, is a low price to pay for the stability, I think.
We're going to turn to questions in the audience. I know sometimes the first question is slow in coming, so we'll be asking for a second question when we turn to the audience in just a moment. But, entertainment, certainly, we're in the entertainment capital of the world here, Dr. Broadman, as has been noted. SoFi Stadium, the center of the universe, recently with Taylor Swift here, and then she had that big movie premiere at the Grove recently, Rick Caruso's property there with Beyonce there and all that. It was obviously the entertainment industry is still significant and it seems to be doing quite well in this area, right?
Yes. Yeah, we've seen a huge economic impact coming from the Taylor Swift concerts that have been going on. Also, when it comes to entertainment, like as in broadcasting, DirecTV has been doing very well as in total capital raised. As we know, Barbie is huge, and Mattel, which is based in El Segundo, is doing very strong as well. They've had a total raise of over $6 billion, yeah. It's doing very, very strongly. One thing that's also been going really well in private investment is Faraday Future, which is an EV manufacturer based in LA. What we're also going to be seeing too is this phase out of, we're talking about oil, we're seeing a phase out of petrol cars happening in California in 2035. And we're pretty well positioned having 5 EV manufacturers. There's 4 based in Southern California and another in Northern California. And so it's really going to help with that shift in demand.
Unfortunately, Taylor Swift couldn't make it today, and Margot Robbie couldn't make it today. But Robin Billups is here. Robin, this lady is a business consultant here. Her energy is just fantastic, and it's always great to see you at the biggest business events here, Robin. Thank you very much for your presence. Is Colonel Lasser here? Colonel Lasser, who's a big supporter of the aerospace industry, has attended this event for many years. Colonel, thank you very much for your presence, and thank you for your service. And now, here comes that second question from the audience. Do we have it? We're going to bring a microphone around. We have a special mic. Go right ahead.
Well, thank you very much, and as always, a fabulous job. So I want to get back to these economic forecasts and the fact that many economists predicted that we might be moving into recession territory, particularly with the Fed increasing interest rates. But did any of these economists ever factor into their model the fact that while the Fed is increasing interest rates, the federal government has spent $2 trillion more than it took in tax revenue? And isn't that going to completely obliterate the effect of interest rate escalation?
And just to clarify, economists have a really good record at predicting 9 of the last 5 recessions, so I think you should consider that. But we understand that there's uncertainty when we try to do our forecasts. And somebody said, and I love this quote, that it says economic forecast is like driving blindfolded, and the people giving you directions is looking through the back mirror. So what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of uncertainty in the market, and you're right. The Federal Reserve is increasing interest rates, which might be bad news for the economy, but the federal government is spending a lot of money too. So that kind of like compensates for that. And at the end of the day, I go back to this, and my students know that, I go back to consumers. If consumers feel like keep spending, the economy will be good. So I understand where the uncertainty comes from, and that's what we have to base our predictions from.
At what point will the debt issue be significant? Not since Ross Perot has debt been an issue, right? That was in 92.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to government spending, just focusing on that, for me, it's about what's that being spent on, right? If we're investing in our communities, if we're investing in infrastructure, if we're investing in people in ways that are going to stoke economic growth in the future, then that's a sensible area of investment. Whether or not we're balancing the books with taxes, you can make arguments that we've undertaxed ourselves for a while. On the other hand, when we do reduce taxes, generally we spend more. And so, somehow the US economy keeps muddling through. Another interesting piece here is that the US government holds a lot of that debt. And so it's not quite as clear cut as, when we're spending money, therefore it's all just going out of the window. Social Security, Medicare, they are in effect investing in the US government and their spending. So it's a complex picture, but there are fears that at some point this is all going to hit the fan. It's not done so yet. And so maybe we shouldn't worry about it, but it's very difficult.
The key is like, should we worry about the debt? I don't think so. As long as people trust the strength and the stability of the U.S. government and institutions. But then I turn on the TV and it doesn't make me feel that good. But overall, as long as people are willing to invest in the U.S., and they are, so we should be fine. That's not to say that we should just keep borrowing indefinitely. But I think as long as people are willing to invest, and look around in the world, the U.S. still remains one of the best places for investment.
That is good to hear. Next question from the audience, right back here.
Yep. Hi, everyone. My name is Edgar. I'm the student body president here at Cal State Dominguez Hills. I want to revisit
Cal State Dominguez Hills.
My question essentially is, are we evolving too fast? Innovation is a game changer. It's big. It's really big. But I want to revisit something you mentioned, Dr. Martinez, about people losing jobs to AI. So then the question really becomes, are we moving too fast? Will that kind of hurt us in the long term of things, with AI and people losing jobs? There not being a need for, that labor, essentially. So that was a question.
Yeah, I'm actually not an expert on AI, and to be honest, I try not to use it too much. But it could be a disruptor, sure. But I think at the end, like I said, people are gonna start using it and figure out what is the best use for that tool, because it's a tool. It's nothing more than that. Without a person there, that is useless. So I think it's definitely something that could be good for the economy as a whole and labor productivity. At this stage, of course, there could be cases in which it actually becomes something negative, but I think overall it's supposed to be a good tool for productivity.
All right. One more great question from the audience, please. And here he is. Professor Nickelsburg is going to pose the question if we get the microphone over here as quickly as possible.
If you're a priest, that's like getting a question from the Pope.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
That is a high compliment.
All right, Janelle Bragg, are we getting him a microphone or? All right, Janelle Bragg with the Innovation Incubator. Thank you, Dr. Broadman, for the plug for the Innovation Incubator. Quick question, similar to Edgar, with AI. I work with a lot of the older generation, baby boomers, and I fear that they don't know how to use the tool. They think that it could, be fearful compared to the younger generation where we see the potential. What resources do you think that the older generation could use to see the value of AI so, it can increase productivity, et cetera?
Thank you for that.
So,
Professor Nickelsburg, all the way from Westwood. Go right ahead, sir.
so I have a comment on the second question, but then I have a question.
Very good.
And that is that we did incorporate the expansionary fiscal policy, which is why we were kind of alone in the woods of saying we were not going to have a recession. So whoever asked that question, you're exactly right. That expansionary fiscal policy in the presence of contractionary monetary policy is something that we haven't seen in the past. And that's why I think many economists, maybe most economists, missed it. But my question is, I think that you all were absolutely correct in describing these wars that are going on abroad as horrific and tragic. But isn't it also the case when we're thinking about the South Bay economy that these wars generate a demand for defense goods, especially aerospace, and that's expansionary for the local economy? And kind of how do you see that playing out over the next few years? Is this the 80s all over again?
Actually, thank you for that question, Professor Nickelsburg. We have a very large aerospace industry within the South Bay. We have over 70 companies based here. There's been over 29 billion capital invested. And we have a great accelerator within the region, Starburst Accelerator based in El Segundo, and there's a lot of aerospace companies based in El Segundo. They will be having increases in capital investment. most likely from this. And a lot of the investment that comes within the region is from government agents, U.S. government agencies. And actually, that's why even though there was a contraction when it came to private investment, across the board, across industries, actually aerospace has been fairly steady. So we will most likely see more of an uptick in investment due to the crises that we're seeing overseas.
Can you believe it? It's October 26th. I think the stores have had the holiday decorations up for months already, but here we are, the eve of the holiday shopping season once again. And what about that? And obviously retailers being hit, unfortunately, with crime in this area and facing a lot of different pressures. But what's the outlook for the retailers here?
It's interesting because in the UK, about nearly a third of all consumer spending takes place during the holiday period. It's incredible. People just spend at that time like no other. It's not the same here in the US, but the biggest impact, I think, is on the ports. So as you know, and those goods are already here. So that's why we saw relatively high September and August import levels. September slightly lower than August, but still higher than the previous year, picking up on what has been a relatively rough year for the ports. We've seen declining imports for the last two halves of the year. And that's obviously a concern for our region because the amount of industry that's built around not just the ports, but the logistics and warehousing. And so, it's good news that the consumer demand is still strong and that we're bringing in goods to the economy, but there has definitely been a shift away from our San Pedro ports towards East Coast ports as the Panama Canal expansion starts to really kick in.
Amy.
Well, let me be the first to wish you a happy Halloween and happy holidays, right? Here we are on the eve of all that, and I hope you found this discussion to be comfortable today. Nobody had to get their binoculars out to see any pie charts or slides, right? So thank you very much, the Economics Institute here at Cal State University, Dominguez Hills, and our esteemed economist for the 9th Annual South Bay Economic Forecast. We're going to transition now. The presenting sponsor for today's forecast is J.P. Morgan Chase, and here to provide remarks on behalf of J.P. Morgan Chase is Letty Sanchez, who's the Executive Director of the SoCal Market, Director, Community and Business Development. Please welcome Letty Sanchez.
The racial equity commitment is absolutely important to our company. Black and Latino communities are growing quickly, and the better we understand and are prepared to serve their needs, the better off we'll be as a company.
We are actively now changing our underwriting credit box in a way that makes credit more accessible to small business owners of color.
We have opened community centers. We have hired community managers. We are well on our way to delivering against that commitment.
We're driving the accountability to give back to our communities, invest, and close that racial equity gap.
We've made systemic change to the business that won't just benefit the next 2 years or 3 years or 5 years or 10 years, but generations.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and more importantly, the resilient Toros of California State University, Dominguez Hills, I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude for the privilege of being the presenting sponsor for today's South Bay Economic Forecast. It's an honor to be here. My name is Letty Sanchez, and I lead J.P. Morgan Chase Community Banking here in Southern California. At J.P. Morgan Chase, we are proud to be part of this community, and we're committed to making a difference. In 2020, we announced a $30 billion racial equity commitment. And this commitment focuses on expanding affordable housing, increasing homeownership, supporting small businesses, improving financial health, and accelerating workforce diversity. That commitment is driven by our belief that our business is stronger when our economy is more inclusive. And this commitment focuses on addressing the racial wealth gap and promoting economic opportunity among the Hispanic, Latino, Black, and underserved communities. Today we come together with the shared purpose to empower our students who might face financial and systemic barriers. We believe that every Toro deserves a chance to have a voice to be heard in this world. The Toros inspire us with their incredible tenacity. Regardless of the challenges they face, they persevere and continue to strive for a brighter future. Your unwavering determination, Toros, is a testament to the strength and resilience that lives in you. But it's not just about inspiration, it's about impact. And investing in Toros has a profound effect, not only on their lives, but on the entire economy of the South Bay community. So as I close, let us work together to create opportunities for the Toros, ensuring that they have a voice in this world and helping them overcome financial systemic barriers. We can be the driving force behind the change we wish to see. So once again, thank you for allowing us to be a part of this inspiring event. And we know that together, we can work together to make a change in this world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Letty Sanchez and the team at JP Morgan Chase. Thank you very much for your participation here today. The Competitive Edge panel coming up next year now. Brace yourselves as we hear from remarkable local companies doing groundbreaking, revolutionary work, and some of it is literally out of this world. Never in history has technology moved at the current pace. The industrial age has lasted longer than 100 years with very little technological advancements. Compare that to the last decade of rapid development, which can be attributed to a combination of factors: information sharing, for example, and accessibility via the internet. Digital transformation through artificial intelligence and machine learning led to automation, reducing process time, especially for students. Open innovation, the rise of open source communities and collaborative platforms has led to idea sharing, leading to faster problem solving and innovation. And increased investment opportunities have created startups and entrepreneurial activity that can swiftly bring transformative ideas to market. Now, all of these factors and more contribute to the rapid acceleration of change in industries all across the board. So how are companies staying ahead of this technological and digital tsunami? Let's hear it now from the Competitive Edge panel. Each speaker will provide about a 5-minute intro on the organizational mission, and then we'll have some panel questions. So let's bring up Gene Edelman, co-founder of Azure Printed Homes. Gene, thank you very much, co-founder of Azure Printed Homes. Why don't you start off with your introduction, please?
Well, thank you so much for having me here. So it's a lot of fun. I've enjoyed this so far. Great, the best humor from economists ever, right? So a little bit of my background. I came to LA over 30 years ago from Ukraine as a refugee from former Soviet Union. Thank you.
Спасибо. Blessings.
I helped resettle 6,000 people to this country, and who would ever thought that this skill would be handy again? But I am just very, very enthusiastic about where we are right now, despite all the issues. The only activity that, if you were to live here in this world 100 years ago, the only activity you would recognize is how people build homes. Exactly the same way. Everybody gets to the site using a hammer and nails, and then in the last 5 to 10 years, we've seen a lot of 3D printing. But all of it has been with cement. Actually, somebody just asked me today, well, what cement are you using? Well, cement is a construction industry is the second worst polluter, only after autos. And cement itself produces about 10% of CO2. So really, when we started our business and started to think about 3D printing just a couple of years ago, I asked the question, why can't we 3D print? And my only condition was only not with cement. And so you see the structures that the 3D printed 30 minutes from you now, but by January 1, we'll be 5 minutes from campus. We're moving right to this area. So,
with or without traffic? 5 minutes with traffic or without?
Yeah, walking probably.
Okay.
But so the incredible innovation is coming right into your back door. And I've talked on 4 different campuses just since the beginning of October. And I tell students in architecture, engineering, and construction that this is the most exciting time. Yeah, there's going to be 3D printing. We can bring everything you see in white are the modules that we print. It can be done in less than 24 hours. So on one hand, you say, wow, all these jobs lost, right? But the average age of construction workers is 57. So we don't have enough construction workers to build this the traditional way. And the kind of opportunities, the kind of high-paying jobs, professional jobs for construction experts who can work in the factory and make this structure, and beautiful structure. People say, this is sexy. I don't know what makes them sexy. I guess curves, right? But you are able to make some incredible structures using 3D printing. Our processes, we print in our factory. Conditions are totally controlled. The prefabrication takes also in the factory. So after 1 day of printing the structure, 5 to 10 days, depending on the size of the structure. And there is a unit that's being delivered. Actually, one of the first units, we've now delivered some 20 units around California. One of the first one was in Big Sur, a resort called Three Bones. So since there are so many economists in this room, right, they paid $60,000 to get this unit, and they're going to be getting $700 a night. This is Olympics economics, right? Get your money back in 3 months. So really great opportunity that's going to be for all of us here in Southern California with Olympics coming up. You can build a structure much less expensive. And the beauty is the affordable housing doesn't have to look ugly. It really can be very attractive. The units are very eco-friendly. I mean, we have positive environmental impact, as someone mentioned. 100,000 empty bottles to create one structure. So we're ordering now for 2024, we're ordering 4 million pounds of recycled material, right? Still, don't drink water bottles if you don't have to. Use this, it's good. But really impact to improve recycle energy. And of course, units can be off-grid in this same development. The whole development is off-grid. So all electric is totally fueled by solar. And we now can even generate water and use portable septic to make them totally off-grid. So a lot of development is going on in the desert. Pests don't like plastic. That's a good thing. So pest control people and among others. We're printing the roofs, so the roofing industry might go through some disruption. The units can withstand winds. I mean, we have a RFP now from Florida, where we're going to comply with Miami-Dade County, where the highest speed winds can do. So, in summary, we're going to build affordable housing. It's going to be sustainable, scalable. We can produce. The reason we're moving close by is because rents are here less expensive than Culver City, and so we're going to print 3 units a day. So, tripling our capacity, durable. Plastic, fortunately or unfortunately, lasts forever. So. With UV stabilizers, it will last very long and beautiful. Thank you so much.
Gene Edelman, co-founder Azure Printed Homes. Thank you very much for that presentation. Please welcome now to the stage Shoko Shafi, the president of DSA Signage, president of the leading digital signage company here and leader in that digital signage industry. Shoko, thank you very much. Tell us about DSA Signage.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm going to borrow this for a minute. So my company may not sound as exciting as what we just heard from Gene, but small and medium-sized businesses like ours build up about 44% of U.S. economy. So it's a real thing that a lot of us actually get impacted by. The company has been around since 1974. Next year, we'll be celebrating our 50th year. And the majority of that time, we've been in the South Bay area. Like you guys, we started in Culver City. And about 21 years ago, we moved to the Carson area and now in Rancho Dominguez. We have about 62 wonderful employees at the moment and growing. just a little picture of a few of us who do this every day. Some of our work, so you think signage, it's not necessarily the sign you see outside the door or what you see behind me is considered signage. But any visual display, whether it's digital or static, and it can be used in many, many markets. So just examples that you see on the screen, from a Christmas decoration at Cartier in Hudson Yard, New York, to your everyday Starbucks drive-through. So if you've ever been to a Starbucks drive-through anywhere in the US or Canada, you've already seen our product. We serve many different markets. Our largest one is the QSR market with the drive-through business. And second to that is retail. So hopefully I can answer some questions about the trends on retail and how COVID impacted it and how it's starting to come back, as well as consumer behavior. Some other ones that are in the area, at least, sports and entertainment. We were just talking about the Olympics. So we have a lot of those around here, from Disney to Universal Studios to every single sports arena that we have in the LA area. They all need signage, mostly digital. That's been something that's evolved in the past few years. But depending on the nature of the business, there are still some companies that continue to stay with static and not switch to digital. I imagine everybody here, if you've lived in California, you know what In-N-Out is. And In-N-Out is one of those companies that's refusing to go to digital because their business just simply doesn't require it. They have such a short menu, just a couple items, that everybody goes there for that favorite burger. And they don't need to invest a huge amount of capital to switch to digital because they won't have an ROI. Whereas some other companies that constantly need to engage the customer to come in, they have seasonal specials. Right now, everybody's looking for their pumpkin latte, no matter what your favorite coffee shop is. Those guys can benefit from digital because they can advertise that live and get your attention and actually remind you, hey, by the way, this is back. Do you want to buy that? They can upsell. They can put a banana bread next to it. And with AI, they can actually look at your historical purchases at their store and listen to your conversation through Google and Apple and actually recommend things that you may not know that you want, but they remind you that you want, and increase their ticket prices. It happens every day. You're talking to your friend, and the next day you get ads on Facebook for some random product you were talking about. So we're all experiencing it. Commitment to sustainability. That's something that, despite COVID, I made a conscious decision that this is important for us as a company. It's important not just for the environment, but also for our employees. Manufacturing is the type of industry that does create and generate CO2, does generate fumes and debris in the air. So you got to be mindful of that. So we have invested heavily in the past 3 years in a lot of automation and a lot of technology that helps with clean air within our facility. Even if you think about like cutting metal, you got to cut metal in different shapes to make all these fancy looking display signs. Every time you cut metal, depending on what kind of equipment you use to cut metal, you're generating some sort of fume, you're releasing some debris in the air. And traditionally, a lot of manufacturers use PPE, like masks, to protect their employees. What we did, we switched from traditional machinery to cut to a water jet, because with water, you have a lot less of that. The material you're cutting is sitting about an inch underwater and is getting cut. So all of that debris gets settled on the bottom, and then you can safely vacuum it out. We invested a very large amount of capital in our new facility in Rancho Dominguez to install air filtration systems above every single welding area, as well as our welding robot, to make sure that none of the welding fumes actually reach our employees. You walk into our manufacturing facility, if you were blindfolded, you would not know you're in a manufacturing environment because you smell nothing. And that's just fantastic, not just for the space, but for my employees. They don't have to worry about lung disease just because they worked there for 20 years. But the other benefit of it is you have the ability to design, our engineers design things in a way that the least amount of scrap is produced. When you can cut multiple pieces out of one piece of sheet metal just because you do your CAD drawing or use your SolidWorks and then feed it into the computer and the computer knows exactly where to put it, you scrap significantly less than a traditional machine that just chops it up and you have to scrap half of it. Granted, we recycle all of them regardless of what kind of machine is cut, but this way we are seeing it. Every month I'm seeing it on my books that my scrap has gone down and my profitability has gone up. So it has a double impact, both economically for me and my company, as well as for the health of my employees. And it's good for the environment. Let me see if I can figure out the technology here to get this video to play for you. So when COVID hit, I had taken over as the CEO of the company on January 1st, 2020. About a month into my role, COVID hit. And with that, I made a conscious decision, and my board was 100% on board with me. We were not going to have layoffs. Nobody was going to lose their job. And we would make sure everybody gets minimum 40 hours a week, and if there was any room for overtime. But what we didn't account for was the age of our skilled workforce. I'm talking about fabricators, machinists, welders. I had 4 full-time welders. 3 of them were over the age of 65. 1 was 63. I lost 3 of them in February to retirement because their families were not okay with them coming to work every day. Manufacturing is not something you can do remotely, unfortunately, not yet. So with those gentlemen all retiring in the same month, we really struggled because while they were doing that, everybody wanted to stay at home and order food or go through a drive-through because you could no longer sit inside a restaurant. So what that did, our demand for drive-through just doubled. Now every little mom and pop shop that used to be a regular restaurant wanted to add a pickup lane or a drive-through. So I had demand coming in, which was fantastic because we got to hire. Our employment rate went up during COVID instead of going down, despite the fact that a large segment, our retail segment, completely shut down. We tried looking for welders and couldn't find anybody. The market just, you don't find younger welders, just there aren't that many out there because the younger generation for the past 20 years hasn't been interested in that type of work. So we tried outsourcing it to people who had no demand. One of our suppliers didn't have any demand. So they stayed open and just did welding for us. But obviously, when you outsource jobs that you were doing previously, that cuts into your profitability. And we were definitely feeling it. So made a conscious decision that it was time to use technology. So we invested in a very large format welding robot. So he's one of our newest members as of 2020. And one of the things we love about him is he shows up every day. He's never late. As long as we feed him, which is regular maintenance, he shows up. He's never sick. His precision is incredible. Like the level of quality we're getting out of him is incredibly better than, because there's no human error. I'm not saying the other ones are bad. It's just we all make mistakes. I make mistakes every day. So our quality actually improved by getting this because every order looked the same. But the other piece was somebody asked, when you introduce AI or technology, jobs are lost. You're absolutely right. This welder is probably 4 to 8 times faster than any human welder. So the production I get out of him is a lot higher. However, it requires a very skilled welder who can program it, not just weld, but be able to write PLC programs. And that job pays at least 150% of what a regular welder makes. So yes, you're replacing a job, but you're hiring people with higher skills. So what I would say, what we need to be conscious of is As AI comes in, as more technology is coming in, education becomes so much more important. That's both at our colleges and universities, but also skilled schools. Those are the ones that I personally work with an organization here called YBA, Youth Business Alliance. It's a great organization. If you don't know it, look them up. Their focus is to go into high schools in disadvantaged neighborhoods and bring leaders there that can help them with financial skills, as well as showing them what else is out there beyond going the college route, because there are so many in our community that may not see that as an option.
Shoku Shafi, thank you very much for that presentation on DSA signage. Ever since you mentioned In-N-Out Burger, we have to go there and eat in the car after this, and we want to make sure everybody gets out on time and have time for the rest of our presenters now, including Al Savage, manager, John Deere Intelligent Solutions Group, Starfire Network. Yep, John Deere, now in the space business. Welcome, Al. Tell us more about John Deere in space.
So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Al Savage. I'm the manager of the Starfire Network there at Deere. We're not going to have tractors on the moon, as Frank has mentioned.
Or we got the answer to that now. Okay.
so we can get that out of the way. But the main goal John Deere's been around for 187 years. So the main goal that we're looking at going forward is to be fully connected, fully autonomous by 2030. I figured we're going to be doing a lot of talking about that today, sharing it in different forms of technology. So instead of me just chatting about it, I decided to bring a video to kind of show you one of the farmers that worked with us at CES that really adopted the technology portion of what we do. So if you can roll the video so the folks can see it.
I'm Travis Center. I'm a third-generation farmer from Kaiser, Arkansas. I grow cotton, corn, rice, and soybeans. Farming is a lot of hours. It's a lot of work. It's extremely more complex than when my father or my grandfather were running the farm. Every single day of the year I have something to do. And during planting and harvest, we'll work 16, 18-hour days until the job's done. You've got to do more with less these days. Deere's technology allows us to maximize every part of it. Everything from self-driving and automation to data and connectivity allows us to be more productive and efficient and save time and spend more time with our family. When we first started using GPS 20 years ago, it allowed you to drive straight, hands off the wheel. You can check markets, you can check weather. Automation and the sensors that are on the machines today make a lot of small changes that make a big impact. Machines allow us to put the seed exactly where it needs to go and to spray exactly where it needs to spray. Every machine is connected, everything is uploading data to the cloud. I have access to it whenever I want, no matter if I'm in the cab, the field, or a meeting, or away from the farm. 20 years of data collection has allowed us to look at past decisions and how that impacts the future. Cloud technology is very important. It allows me to actually analyze the data versus collect the data. And so I can use my phone to see every machine, to see every operation, and to use that information to make real-time adjustments. Deere's technology allows me to work faster, be more precise, and be more efficient. What I can accomplish in an hour that would have took my grandfather 2 or 3 days to do. I couldn't imagine farming without technology. It's critical in nearly every aspect that I do. Technology has changed farming, and it's changed my life.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Excited to be here. Thank you.
Beautifully done, Al. Thank you very much. And next up is John Barr with Varda Space Industries. We're going to learn more about Varda now. John Barr, welcome with John Barr with Varda Space Industries.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm John Barr. I'm the COO of Varda Space Industries, and we are a company that manufactures satellites in El Segundo and manufactures new materials and pharmaceuticals in orbit. We currently have one vehicle on orbit. It does a lap over Earth about every 90 minutes, and about 3 more in build. The vehicle on orbit right now should be coming back with 3 vials of ritonavir, basically in the next 2 to 3 months here. And I think we have a short intro video to show.
From the dawn of time, humans have had to build to survive, to pioneer, to forge new ground, to do instead of dream. When the space race started, everyone assumed it was a sprint. Turns out, it's humanity's greatest marathon, and escaping Earth's atmosphere was only mile one. It's truly remarkable how far we've come. But this is just the beginning.
How are we looking?
Capsule 3 has a dead RTD, but we're still going.
Ready for deorbit.
One more deorbit for you. This one finished up early.
All right, let's see what we got. Show me 1 and 2.
Links up. All systems nominal.
Today, we stand on the shoulders of the giants who ran the hardest mile first, who opened the gateway to the galaxy and ushered in an entirely new kind of science with the power to benefit all life on Earth. At Varda, we leave gravity behind to manufacture revolutionary products in space, to bring them back to Earth, and deliver game-changing benefits today while paving the way for a truly interplanetary existence tomorrow.
Chute deploys nominal. Wind speeds 35 knots south-southwest. We'll have the inventory on trucks by lunch. Touchdown. 295 Charlie secure.
Looks good. Who's up next?
Getting to space is old news. Now, it's what you do when you're out there that counts.
Yeah, thanks.
Very exciting. Thank you very much, John, for that fantastic presentation there. And welcome to all of our great industry leaders here today here in the South Bay. Some have left Culver City, so welcome officially now to the South Bay, and in some cases right down the street here. What attracted you to the South Bay, other than the weather?
Quite honestly, it was availability of space at a lower price, and being closer to the port because we're asked to ship our units as well. So, combination of the things we've talked about earlier today.
Wonderful. You know, what's not widely known is that Los Angeles is the largest manufacturing region in the United States by far. So that's got to be an attraction here, right? You have everything, the whole world at your feet here.
Yeah, quite honestly, we're contractors. We started the company with a mission of finding the way to build faster, cheaper, and with less environmental impact. And I think the spirit of California is about invention. So I don't know whether in being somewhere else in the world, you would get the feeling, why can't? And that was my job. I have a younger partner. My job is to ask a question, why can't we do this? And then he's figuring out how to get it done.
Well, then, of course, there's your spirit. As you mentioned, you're from Ukraine, and Shoku is from Iran, right? The entrepreneurial spirit and passion is absolutely impressive. Tell us some more about that and how you're doing business here.
I can't take credit for the business. I didn't find it, but I took over about 4.5 years ago and relocated from the East Coast. But when we were trying to decide where to go about a year ago, a lot of options were on the table. As you know, in the past couple of years, a lot of companies opted to leave California because of some of the labor challenges and real estate costs. And even though currently the commercial real estate is not doing well, about a year ago, it was really hot. However, we are talking about 62 people's livelihood and their families by extension. So we made a decision that we were not going to go beyond 5 miles so it wouldn't displace anyone. So we moved from Carson to Rancho Dominguez, about 5 miles away. So.
Fantastic. Let me ask you this, Al. When you say, hi, I'm Al Savage with John Deere, and we're in the space business, what's the reaction?
A lot of times it's bewilderment. I think people are a little bit surprised when they hear tractor, ag, and space all in the same sentence. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to them until we open up and actually tell them what it is we're doing.
That's great. All the more reason to tell us more about this, behind John Deere's decision to venture into the space industry. How did that even come about?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. This is the second time we're doing this. A lot of people are not aware that John Deere was already doing autonomous tractors in 1999. That's where they came here into the South Bay, into Torrance, found the building that I worked for at the time. It was called Navcom. They bought us, and they saw something there with the fully autonomous, being semi-autonomous and stuff like that. But the second portion of getting into satellite, the satellite technology is connectivity. So today, one area that we're still trying to get a little better at is being able to connect machine to machine. You heard Travis kind of go over that, saying that in his area, he's able to have that connection. Well, there's another 15% of farmers that are in rural areas that don't have that connection. A big portion of that is in South America. And so that's why we're venturing back out into space for maybe a different level. We use GEO satellites today, but now we're going to start exploring the LEO satellite for the less latency, because you're going to be doing a large uploading and downloading of big data. So that's essentially why we're getting back into this. It's something we're familiar with, obviously, as far as the space technology, but it's been a pretty long road. I know some folks have probably seen the SATCOM RFP that had went out, and we're still kind of working through that. A whole lot of work to do there, but once we do get to a resolution, it's going to bring us exactly what we need.
Fantastic. And it looks like LA might be competing with space as far as manufacturing regions, as we just heard here a moment ago. With Varda on the scene, what about space manufacturing, and take us into the future? What's that going to look like?
Hopefully, a lot of the industrial parks we're seeing actually, move off the planet, but only for very specific materials. So, for us at Varda, there's basically been 25 years of research on the International Space Station, and a lot of that's actually been pretty successful. With pharmaceuticals, fiber optics, silicon wafers, and even some types of metallurgy. But no one's commercialized it yet. So for us, what we'd like to do is basically offer, an off-ramp to a lot of those experiments and investigations that were successful for companies to basically investigate further. And as far as the South Bay, we actually, it's an honor to be here. 2 years ago, we were here as like a very young startup with a table in the back. So this is actually like a real honor. As we were looking for a place to put the company then, we actually did a heat map of the United States. And Southern California is like a real standout as far as, the talent pool, suppliers, and manufacturing capabilities. All up and down the West Coast, there's a lot of tech companies, and I'd say Southern California was by far provided the most resources to, especially for us, a young startup.
Fantastic. At this time, I'd like to welcome to the stage Dr. Finland Prager with the South Bay Economic Institute here, who's going to facilitate the Q&A from the audience and take some have additional questions for this esteemed panel, because I have to go on the radio right now on 790 KBC, so perfectly honest with you. So it's been an honor to be with you. Thank you very much for your attention. Please welcome Dr. Prager.
I'm coming for your job, Frank. Not really. I love my job. So I'm actually going to ask a few more questions of the panel here, because we really appreciate your time and coming to talk to our students. And I think that one thing that I'm particularly interested in, especially for our budding entrepreneurs here, is the process of starting an innovative startup and some of the challenges that are involved. Gene and John, maybe you could share some of your thoughts on that.
Sure. Challenges for us where they're just in an area where there is not much innovation. People are just wondering, why hasn't it been done before? That is the most common question. Why are you the one chosen to do this? The easiest answer is not to think how we're going to do it. It's the problem that we're going to solve, We all live in this beautiful area, and it's the greatest country in the world. Can we really drive by and seeing 75,000 homeless people on the street every day? I live only 5 minutes from my office, and I pass by the same 20 people every day. And it's just, so when somebody says, why are you doing it? I said, if nobody else is going to do it, we got to solve this problem. So while we saw beautiful pictures at nice resorts, our mission is to find affordable housing solution. And it's just, it's wrong to have so many people on the street in this country. So we gotta do something about it, right? On the average, it costs $750,000 per homeless unit in LA. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for anybody. So why can't we build a unit for $40,000? And there is so much land that's underutilized. So it goes back to, as people hear from Accelerate, it's a product market fit. Is there a demand for the market? You know, and when we, 18 months ago, when we just printed our MVP, our first unit that still stands in front of our office, we put a little Facebook ad for 2 weeks. We spent our marketing budget so far is under $10,000, because it's amazing how people just came out. You know, people wanted to have virtual office in the back. People wanted a ADU. I am never heard of glamping. You know, like you come from Ukraine, you want to stay in a 5-star hotel. Excuse me. It's like, glamping, what is that, right? But 3 of our first business customers were glamping resorts. And on and on and on. I mean, I just came from San Jose, and the conference on sustainability asked us to offer a conference room in the conference center. I never thought, yeah, this is for external. Are you calling the right number? No, we want your unit to be here for a meeting. So product market fit is the bottom line. I think John probably will have the same. When you have customers, people will believe. People will believe when there are pre-orders.
Yeah, I actually totally agree. And, maybe we're going through the similar thing where, for us, microgravity manufacturing has been around for a while, but not commercialized. So, explain to pharmaceutical companies and fiber optic companies that, hey, this is going to happen. There's different crystallization that occurs in zero gravity. It's definitely a challenge. As far as the broader question, as the challenges of starting a company, man, I don't even know where to begin with that one. But from hiring to fundraising to finding a facility, and especially if you're doing something that involves manufacturing and tooling, all that's it's really difficult to stand up, and it's even more difficult to stand up on short timelines. Across the board, I don't think there's a single answer to it, other than the aggregate of the problem. Making sure everything falls into place at the right time.
And Shilku, just kind of from your perspective of growing a company that's already well established, but you're trying to find new innovative solutions in a highly competitive industry, what are your kind of next steps? What are your next strategic ventures?
I want to say this kind of started for us about 3 years ago. COVID, in a way, was a blessing because it was the little shock we needed. As I said, the second largest segment of my business is retail. Every mall shut down. Every retail store was closed for about 1.5 years. And if you don't have cash coming in, you're not going to be investing on beautifying your space. So we saw every day different customers, big customers, JCPenney, Macy's, Guess, Forever 21, filing for Chapter 11. So if we weren't agile, we would have gone under. So pivoting was a big thing for us. Figure out where there is demand, like Gene mentioned, look for where the demand is and adapt to it. And to do that, one of the first things was we needed an A team. I had to build an A team. So the biggest challenge of growing a business is having the right team members, because I can have all the ideas in the world, but I can't do it on my own. In the past couple of years, I have been so absolutely fortunate. I have a couple of my wonderful employees here with me, but the team that we have built, and it took a while because the reality is the term manufacturing is just not sexy enough for people to join, especially if you're not a startup. But we managed to focus on what is our culture. We want people that are going to fit in and buy into the value that we are representing. And we've done a great job of that. And I think the success that we've seen, we have doubled our business in the past 2 years. But our profitability is more than double. If that says anything, that's the innovation between our engineering team, our marketing team, and then giving the right tools to our sales team to go ahead and switch and be clearly noticed. Digital is where everybody is going. People want interactive video walls. They don't want to look at a, static poster board with a message on it. So just be mindful and be willing to change and adapt with the market.
And Al, for you, working in a major corporation like John Deere, how does such an established and large organization like that continue to innovate? What challenges have you seen and faced in terms of trying to introduce innovation into that kind of organization? And where do you see the future of John Deere in that respect?
Yeah, the fact that we're an older company does hurt or hinder when it comes to adoption. So a lot of our customers, farmers, average age is about 55 years old. What we seeked out to do was to make their jobs easier. So essentially, work smarter, not harder. In doing that, Deere, like I said, bought us in 99. 2010, we came out with started using the cloud and came out with, a software suite where farmers can actually, upload to the cloud a lot of the day's work, fields work, maybe the quarter's work, and share that within a community. So that way they can do a little bit more predictable modeling for the following year. It's almost like self-teaching. Just last year, we introduced fully autonomous tractors, so basically no one in the cab. And everybody's asking, well, why are you doing these things, or why are you kind of going through these steps? And when you're looking at it, I think United Nations had wrote an article, had sent out some facts about, population growth. I think they said by the year of 2050, our population is supposed to be around like 10 billion. I think we're near like 8 billion today, and that's global. So you're essentially going to ask someone who's 55 years old, works 12 to 18 hours a day to do more, right? And so to do that, you got to find some way to help these folks do the things that we necessarily are going to need, right? The food, the fuel, the fiber. That's all done by farmers. So I think that area was a little bit tough for us. I spoke about the connectivity piece. Farmers want to be able to do a lot more with less. And so if we can solve that problem, I think that it'll essentially help them, as we go further into getting them geared up, at least for 2030 and beyond.
Wonderful. And so earlier there was a question about, especially older populations adjusting to technological changes, right? Excellent question from one of our bright students there. I know that you all have had experience with that with John Deere. So how has that played out in, meeting those farmers where they're at?
It's actually played out pretty well. When it first was introduced, adoption rate was really low. But then as time went on, when farmers began to see what it can actually do for them, it actually started to get, a lot more attractive for them. It also, a large onus was put on John Deere as well as is how it's presented. A lot of these farmers, when they try to pass the farm on, or at least pass some of the responsibilities on, son or daughter, we all know, the new generation loves phones and loves video games and loves technology. So this is kind of in their wheelhouse. So when we presented it in that fashion, we saw the adoption rate go up. But also, farmers started to notice, higher yield. They were using their land a lot better. There's better spacing. So many things that they can do with the fact that they were using technology. And so it was a little bit of an easier sell. Once we broke through, then it became easier to do.
So we've talked a lot about human capital and the wealth of incredible resource that we have in this region for, I think we produce more PhDs than any other region in the world. We have an incredibly highly trained workforce. And this is an open question to any of you. What are you seeking in terms of the skills that you want from our students here today? Go ahead, Gene.
Sure. We are looking for people who are tech savvy and willing to learn. I cannot imagine with us bringing totally new technology that I'm going to find somebody who's 5 years experience. So it really is somebody who is open-minded, I just hired a woman yesterday. She came to the exhibit in San Jose, and she's stuck there for 2 days because she loved it. That's the kind of people I love, and she started today. So somebody who is open-minded, many people ask me, being an immigrant or refugee, I didn't speak any English, I didn't have any papers, I didn't have any money when I came here. The old-fashioned way. Don't let that stop you. That's your advantage. If you're from poor home and parental life wasn't the best, speak about the fact that you're in university, the fact that you are interested in new technology. That's your card to get a job, right? So I'm passionate about being supportive of education because I feel that people come from immigrant, minority backgrounds are resilient, more resilient than somebody who is already born with everything given to them. So in my mind, yeah. So I just say, go for it, and don't accept that because of the way you look or where you come from is going to stop you, because it hasn't stopped me and people on this panel. And you see a lot of successful entrepreneurs are immigrants, and to just start from scratch and make it in this country. Thank you.
So I would say, so Deere, we're in this office here in the South Bay, we're very GPS, GNSS centric. So we do look for folks that have, geomatics degrees, anything that has to do with space. We also are very heavy in software development, believe it or not. Yeah, we're a tractor company, but we do have over 4,300 software developers. So that's an area that we are always looking for folks. So yeah, if that's your field, then that's essentially what we're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, for us, one of the reasons we like Southern California so much is as far as diversity of workforce, especially in the tech industry. For aerospace, you're trying to hire from mechanical engineers to electrical engineers to software engineers. So it's a pretty diverse workforce, at least within a single technology. So yeah, at the highest level, absolutely. Folks are open-minded and willing to roll up their sleeves. The other thing we like to hire is always ask the question of are you the type of person that can laugh in the lifeboats? So as far as life at a startup and life at a tech company, and doing something audacious like trying to manufacture pharmaceuticals in space, the biggest thing we look for is someone who's willing to take their licks and keep going.
Shaker? We kind of have different levels of employees from, first line manufacturer worker all the way to director of supply chain and C-suite executives. But what I think we usually look for is the younger folks that are hungry to learn more. It doesn't matter what your skill set is or if you've never worked anywhere, especially the generation that's graduating now with the COVID challenge. They didn't have the opportunities that some of us had with co-ops and internship during the summer because so many companies just stopped that. So don't be afraid that if you don't have a really fat resume, there are still companies that are willing to take a chance on you as long as you have the will and a willingness and attitude of I'm here to learn more. I almost want to put somebody on the spot. Frida, do you mind standing up? She is actually a graduate of this school. And Frida runs our digital marketing, and she came straight out of this university to our company during COVID. And when I interviewed a few candidates. Some had marketing experience. Frida hadn't done it. But the attitude that Frida had and the willingness to want to learn more was like, it didn't matter how much experience the other ones had. She was the right candidate. She's been with us for a couple of years now, and I could not be happier.
I
think that's a Go Toros. Any questions from the floor? Do we have any? Dr. Rashid. We got. I've surprised our tech team there. Sorry.
My name is Harun Rashid. I am a faculty of accounting. My question is to Jean. This is, 3D printed home is exciting. Obviously, it's a solution to the housing shortage in California. I was interested in the 3D homes, and some of the factors that discouraged me was how long is it going to last? And if I invest in this, let's say I buy one, then what's going to be the resale value if I have to sell it 5 years down the line? And then if there is a damage, where do I go to fix it? So how do you convince consumer like me about these issues?
Thank you. Accounting was not my strength, so no, all good questions. We've done a lot of testing before we printed the first unit. Again, I think the unique part that we have is that contractors got into technology instead of technologists got into construction. So all of those questions and more we had before we did a bunch of computer modeling. We worked with ICC, International Construction Code Organization, to adopt a new code. We basically have an acceptance criteria that create for ourselves and for people who will follow us to answer those questions. So fortunately or unfortunately, plastic lasts forever. So it will last. The only, the plastic is damaged because of UV. So by adding UV stabilizer, and we're partnering with PPG, which is a global paint company, they have a stain. They give a customer guarantee for 25 years that doesn't need to be repainted. So, so it lasts. It's been tested. It's been weather tested. We have this rapid weather testing, so we can, in 82 days, replicate what will happen to material in the next 15 years. So it's been very, very thoroughly tested. Fixing it, again, it's on the inside of the building, it's just like any house. We basically qualify as any residential house. On the outside, it looks actually very cool. I mean, it looks like a bunch of vinyl records for people who remember what vinyl record looks like. Yeah, so I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you have. The reality, interestingly, people say, well, who are your customers? Are young people, older people? The diversity of customers is incredible. Our first customers, a lot of them were people who have sites that are impossible, where there's impossible to build on with traditional methods. So they just looked at, they didn't think how it's going to be done. They just said, could never build on this land. Maybe you can do this. We have a group of investors who are backing us, and one of them came in town. He is, his late 60s, maybe early 70s, and he was the biggest doubter. I actually was surprised that he invested. His son also invested, so he convinced him. When he left, I gave him a recommendation to buy a HP 3D printer for his 5-year-old. And that's what's going to do it. It's when people really, when adoption happens with elementary school kids who can get how it's made. And it's really, look, the fact that I've invented it means that it's not very complicated, believe me. So, yeah, it's really good questions, and I can answer in private any questions. I've already answered all of them, and I'll answer more.
And speaking of investment, we're really grateful for the investment that the state of California makes in our campus here. And we've got Senator Bradford here and in the audience today, who has been a steadfast supporter of our campus and the work that we do here. So thank you, Senator Bradford. Next question.
Yeah, my name is David Silver. I work with California Volunteers. Office of the Governor basically gets 10,000 service members across California, and my job is to make sure that they get into careers afterwards. Specifically, we partner here with Cal State Dominguez Hills, and they have incredible students And every year we have, approximately 40 students that come out of the College Core program that we would love to have in a pipeline towards some of the type of industries that you have. We're looking at partnerships with the mayor's office, with the county, with the state, but would love to have some corporate partners as well. And they specifically want to have jobs and careers that are focused on social service. So would love to know if we have college grads, almost all of whom are students of color, first-gen background, from a low-income background, how would we develop a pipeline with you all?
I think, so we've actually worked with this university in particular. I know Dr. Brotman was one of our contacts when we were looking for folks in accounting. We reach out to the university and they have a portal where we can post our jobs. So I think the recruiting on campus is actually pretty good. And I know we are one of the companies that work with them, but I imagine they have a pipeline of companies, corporations in the area that are looking for talent. Believe me, we want the talent more than you want them to get a job. It's hard out there.
From my perspective, in our industry, we transition our workforce from working in the field to working in the factory, and people love it. Because, they're still electricians and carpenters and plumbers, but they see what's going on next door, and it's like seeing and trying and covering. We work 3 shifts, so when our third shift 3D operator can't come to work, we have a bunch of volunteers who want to do it. They see it, they know it's not that it's pushing the button and watching, knowing when to stop. So I would not shoot for the sky. I would start kind of a ground level, so anybody who has some construction skills, look for opportunities. And there is, we're doing 3D printing, but there's so many innovation in LA or in California in factory-made housing. So look for some entry-level construction jobs and then have them, go up inside the company. I think that would be the easiest.
For us, it's a little harder. We've worked with this university. We've worked with some of the other universities that we have alumni that work for us. The USC's, UCLA's, Pepperdine, all the different groups. The problem is that we're GNSS centric here. So in the Southern California office, so we look for specifics, right? Everything else, the majority of it is in the Midwest. So a lot of the students were like, well, I don't want to move to Iowa, or I don't want to move to Illinois. I'd rather, try to stay here in Southern California. So we didn't really have a large offering other than, or anything outside of the technical space. So we're still kind of working on that. Like I said, in those areas, we have very strong branches, Austin, Chicago, Iowa, Raleigh. We have really strong branches there with the local universities. Here, it's so specific. It's a niche, so it's a little bit harder.
We've actually also reached out to the university a couple times and have set up a couple programs here. But actually, as we speak right now, our recruiting team is at the Society of Women Engineers Conference in downtown LA. So we have a pretty robust recruiting pipeline, especially out of colleges and universities. And we actually have tried to prioritize local colleges and universities with that, just because it's always easier when someone's already in the area. So our workforce is also pretty specific to aerospace, and then different roles within that. But we work pretty hard actually to work with a lot of universities within the area.
I want to add, actually, I would love to speak with you maybe after this. Solving homeless crisis is not going to be just providing housing. It's going to be creating jobs, right? And I'm very interested to partner with not-for-profits that can provide vocational training and mental health support for the folks to get off the streets. So I'm very, very interested to figure out how to create employment for people who lost hope. So love to talk with you after this.
Thank you.
Hello there. I'm Natoma Keita, and I am an entrepreneur for many, many, many years. I reside on the CBAP board. Before I direct my question to Mr. Eidelman, I would like to say that I thought you were Shaq up there for a second. From our vantage point.
I get Shaq, I get Luke Cage. I get the guy off a girls' trip.
Definitely. Well, I want to thank you all for being here and presenting today. My question is for Mr. Eidelman. You're getting the questions. This question may not be a factor in your design focus, but may be of concern for home buyers as you scale. When you design your 3D homes, do you, by chance, get input from consumers of diverse populations, including women and seniors, to determine aesthetics, comfort, and security?
Very good question. Definitely. Yeah. First of all, I qualify as a senior. I'm a great believer. We have several women on the design team. Look, guys know that we don't know what we're doing, right? The women know, and the women are the ultimate buyers. So absolutely. We're also, we are working with a developer in 29 Palms to develop a veterans village. So making homes that can be ADA accessible, on and on and on. There are in housing, there are so many niches that to have a product that will withstand the time, back to previous question, and will be, beautiful to use. I mean, I really, I have a vision. I mean, look, in order for California, we've had many investors coming in the last 18 months from out of state. They said, why are you moving to another location in California? Why not move to Texas? Same questions you have. And I just said, it'd just be crazy. There is a real need here. So if we can figure out how to do it here, I think our biggest challenge for this region is to find ways to make housing more affordable. If we can do that, there are many, many issues. But, I have 3 kids and none of them can afford a house. So it doesn't make sense. So we got to figure out a way collectively how to do this.
So I think we've got time for 1 or 2 more questions. I think this gentleman in the center has had his hand raised for a while.
How are you doing today? Adil Sadiq, I'm a student and vice president of Rotaract Club here at Dominguez Hills. I had a question for Mr. Eidelman in regards to, I love your mention of sustainability. I love your mention of things being eco-friendly and affordable. But I did have a question in regards to scalability. Is this something that's kind of limited and constricted to the type of size it is? Or is this something that can, you can make a duplex out of this thing, you can make it a little bit larger? Also, second question I had was, is there any partnerships you guys are exploring? Because a lot of real estate, especially nowadays, is being purchased by, Airbnb hosts. People are renting them out. So is there any type of partnerships you've explored with Airbnb or, maybe even government housing, since you mentioned a lot of good mention of helping out the needy and people that need homes?
Yeah. No, first question, I just didn't have enough time, but we've designed our modules to be like Legos. We really can use a 10 by 10 or 10 by 20, and you can use it to build a 2,000 square feet home. So very scalable. Secondly, we don't need large manufacturing. We're moving from 8,000 square feet to 20,000 square feet, and that'll produce thousands of homes a year. So we basically need a warehouse with a 20-foot high ceiling. So it's very easy to have a pop-up plant. Question about partnerships. I just had a meeting. I went to USC for undergrad, and I just met with USC Credit Union. They've just applied for a grant to make ADUs financing more affordable. There are a lot of initiatives that, so ADUs can now be, you can build a unit in the back and make it a condominium. Any not-for-profit can use their parking lot for housing, on and on and on. This is just in the last 3 weeks. So, our state leaders are making the right moves. We need to have more density. That's the key. And again, for people who are just starting out, entrepreneurs, there's so many entrepreneurial opportunities. To buy the land, land in 29 Palms is very cheap. And now you can buy the land. People want to go in the desert, especially from the East Coast, and build something totally off-grid. It's creating the wealth. Look, capitalism is a good thing. Believe me. I've lived under a communist system. That doesn't work. So embrace it, figure out the ways to create passive income, to think of how to make something start small, have a job, but think of how to invest in real estate. If you can't afford something in the West End, look at some other places, and there is this incredible opportunity.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Our last question from the floor.
Oh, lucky me, right? Last question. First of all, you all are all amazing, so thank you for sharing all this information to these young people. So thanks for that. My name is Dominique McMillan. I work for a construction company that's actually owned by my daughter, so she's my boss. She's 28. She's a general contractor, and we're in the ADU space heavily. And this is amazing what you're doing, Mr. Elderman, and wanting to kind of just find out how someone like my daughter and our company can learn more, as we're always looking for innovative ways to. I like to call it, and I tell a lot of our family members and friends that ask about ADUs, this is, we have a housing crisis, right? And we know that, but when I think about housing wealth and our parents and grandparents being able to provide a home. She lives in my garage that I no longer have a garage, but we've converted into an ADU space for her while she builds her business. But this is amazing what you're doing. So I like to know how, sorry y'all, but personally I can do a visit, how we can see what you're doing. And we're trying to, grow more young people in this industry because it's challenging, and so we want more folks to get into it.
Now, I'm very, there's so much business that I'm very open to partnering with anybody, and the reality, the more we produce, we need people who can build the foundations and build utilities and put them in, so feel free to come up and I'll give you a tour. Thank you.
Wait. On behalf of Dominguez Hills, I want to thank you all for coming to this event today. Thanks again and have a wonderful evening.